Part 103. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 1021. Chapter 1021 Care and Protectiveness. That's pretty much the patient's condition we need to pay more attention in the future. Yuan Ran heard the sentence when she was slightly conscious, and she knew that she was in the hospital again. MRSU found that Yuan Ran had woken up and was sitting on the edge of her bed looking at her. She sighed repeatedly, "You kid, you really have to scare me to death." "Sorry." Her lips were slightly parted, and she didn't know if her apology was heard clearly. She felt without energy and just wanted to sleep with her eyes closed. But she seemed to see MRSU crying. "Mom, how am I doing?" Was her body already irreparably broken and weak? She just wanted to know her physical condition, at least have some confidence in her mind. As soon as MRSQ heard her feeble voice, she couldn't help but shed tears. "Mom did something wrong, she shouldn't have locked you up." MRSU avoided mentioning the specific condition of her body. Yuan Ran saw that she looked very sad and blamed herself, so he didn't ask any more questions. Just called her and said, "I don't blame you." Even though there is anger and helplessness, there is no blame. Poor parents in the world, it took a long time for her to slowly accept Kitano, not to mention her mother who loved her wholeheartedly. She understood a lot by putting herself in his shoes. Yuan Ran asked, "Mom, can I be discharged from the hospital?" MRSU dismissed her question without hesitation. "No, you are not well yet. Just rest here for 2 days. If you feel any discomfort, you can ask someone to treat you in time." Yuan Ran was silent for a while, then sighed, "My mobile phone." Hearing these 4 words, she knew that Yuan Ran was asking for her mobile phone. MRSU hesitated for a moment. But when she thought about what the nurse had told her just now, taking care of the patient was not only about food, clothing, housing, and transportation, but the patient's mood was also very important. MRSU still compromised and took out the mobile phone from her bag and handed it to her. Even though MRSU was still very reluctant, she had to endure no matter how dissatisfied she felt at the thought of not being able to stimulate her daughter's emotions. Just out of sight, MRSU took the initiative to leave the ward to make room for her daughter to make a phone call. Yuan Ran did contact Beiya as soon as possible, but did not tell him about his hospitalization. He just calmed Beiya's mood and told him not to worry. After some time, when Mom's anger subsides, we can apologize to her again. Of course, as long as you think it's good, I won't refute it. Beiya now firmly believes in Yuan Ran's words. Because of the previous example, B warned himself that he must never doubt Yuan Ran again and must believe it wholeheartedly. The lovers ended the call with sympathy, and Yuan Ran settled in the hospital with peace of mind. But they all ignored B's care and desire to protect Yuan Ran. Even though he knew that Yuan Ran was safe at home, Beiya couldn't help but wander outside the Yu family villa, thinking that if they couldn't meet, it would be better to be closer to her. The most painful thing in the world is lovesickness. That kind of intangible emotion pulls people's hearts tightly, making them think about them all the time and always want to get closer to that person. But because of this, Kitano discovered a problem. He noticed something was wrong with MRSU's whereabouts and the housekeeper's whereabouts, so he followed them to the hospital. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 1022. Chapter 1022 Mother-in-law and son-in-law. Beiya followed the Yu family's housekeeper to the hospital and really saw the person he had been longing for. Alas! Beiya did not go in to see her, but just leaned against the wall and sighed deeply. He finally figured out that Yuan Ran's character really meant that she would rather keep all the pain in her heart than speak out and let her relatives share it. This has nothing to do with trust, but rather, a person's personality. Yuan Ran didn't want to say anything, so he pretended not to know. "I just thought it would be nice to see you." Just stay by her side and see that she is safe. One time the housekeeper was delayed while delivering food and accidentally spotted a figure walking past Yuan Ran's ward. He chased after him and saw Bayet. The loyal housekeeper told MRSU about this matter. MRSU made a little plan and actually saw with her own eyes Kitano carefully guarding Yuan Ran in front of Yuan Ran's ward. Kitano was obviously too serious and lost his usual keen insight. MRSU stood at the back and waved to the housekeeper, and the two left quietly. The housekeeper was not sure about the real reason why MRSU was dissatisfied with Kitano. At this time, he couldn't help but say good things for Kitano. "Madam, I think Mr. Kitano is also sincere to the eldest lady. Why don't you make things happen between the two of you? I really want to make it happen." But when she mentioned Kitano, she would think of her daughter's kidney being forcibly removed. This fact is like a nightmare lingering in MRSU's mind, and she cannot forget it for a long time. "Stop talking, let's go." She refused to listen to the housekeeper's persuasion and just wanted to calm down. "I often walk by the river, and my shoes don't get wet. How could Yuan Ran never notice Kitano's appearance in the hospital?" But the two of them had a tacit understanding and did what they insisted on. An indifferent person learns tenderness, and an impulsive and domineering person learns tolerance, and finally reaches the point of understanding. On the day Yuan Ran was discharged from the hospital, not only did MRSU personally come to handle the discharge procedures for her, Kitano also drove to the hospital gate to wait in person. He is not trying to compete with MRSU, but just to show his attitude. After MRSU and Yuan Ran came out together, they found B invited the two of them to get in the car. The most important thing was to see MRSU's choice. Baye stood outside and invited them, and was very polite to them. Yuan Ran wanted to leave but never moved, waiting for MRSU's choice. "Auntie, I'm here to take Ran out of the hospital. I'll take you home at this time." Kitano was dressed seriously, and others would probably praise MRSU for getting a good son-in-law. But MRSU hesitated again and again, and finally refused coldly. "No need, our family never lacks cars and drivers." Being rejected, Kitano nodded and acted very open-minded, because all this was expected by him. It's rare to see Kitano looking so polite. No matter how serious he appears, he can't hide his innate rebellious temperament. Yuan Ran made eye contact with Baye, and then followed MRSU silently. After getting into the car, Yuan Ran couldn't help but stick her head out to take a look. MRSU said abruptly, "Go down. Ah. If you don't get off, let the driver drive." Etc. Yuan Ran suddenly reacted, opened the car door and walked out, turned around and waved to MRSU, "Mom, thank you." MRSU is also a tsundere. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1023. Chapter 1023. Pregnant with Lyogia. B didn't expect that when he was feeling lost and about to leave, he would actually see Yuan Ran walking towards him. At that moment, he couldn't even believe his eyes. Ran. It's me. You're actually here. Isn't this just a daydream? B never imagined that Yuan Ran could get into his car in the presence of MRSU. It's really incredible. Yuan Ran saw that his usual cleverness had turned into a fool at this moment, so he reached out and tapped his forehead. "Stupid." She explained to Kitano, "My mother asked me to come here. As a junior, I try my best to consider the mood of my elders and force myself to do things, but MRSU has really changed a lot nowadays. He is no longer as domineering as before, and he also knows how to consider her mood." To be fair, Yuan Ran is very grateful for her mother's consideration. Kitano also made a promise, Don't worry, I will definitely perform well and strive to get my mother-in-law's forgiveness as soon as possible. Hearing his scornful tone, Yuan Ran raised her fist again, but in the end she still didn't hit him. In order to allow Yuan Ran to take care of her health, MRSU has now banned Yuan Ran from going to work in the hospital. Yuan Ran still couldn't let go of the company's affairs, and at the same time she couldn't bear to let her mother work so hard, but MRSU was determined to restrain her this time, and she didn't know when she even joined Kitano. Yuan Ran was forced to become a jobless vagrant. Whether it is Kitano or MRSU, there is only one common requirement for her now: don't worry about any work. The most important thing now is to maintain good health. Hence, Yuan Ran and Ye Weiwei found resonance. Because these two people are prohibited from working due to physical reasons. However, Yuan Ran was recovering from illness, while Ye Weiwei was pregnant. She is currently in her 6th month of pregnancy and her belly has grown. She always says she has gained weight. Originally, all the sisters around her had to work, and she was the only one to pass the time by studying music and composing. Now that she learned that Yuan Ran and she had the same problem, the two of them could get together and spend time. Alas, there is no place for heroes. This is already the 10th time Ye sat at the table and held his chin in his hands to sigh. She and Yuan Ran are obviously business material, but it is not appropriate to work hard now. Yuan Ran can also go out for a trip to pass the time and relax her mood, but the pregnant woman in Liujia can only stay at home and do moderate exercise. Yuan Ran is not willing to leave her relatives and people she likes and run around. When she can't work, she will find a lot of books and information to read, so she won't waste time. But it's still boring. Liulai used to be the best at weekends, but she hasn't been home for a month now. Oh, why? Just hide from people, just. Understood. Ye Weiwei was halfway through his words when Yuan Ran understood. Nangong Luo's confession can be regarded as announcing the official end of the pure friendship with Gongqin Li. Gongqin Li, who was originally the most heartless, also became fearful and simply hid in the police station without seeing anyone. What about Nangong Luo? Brother Nangong has been on a business trip recently, and there is no important news. He just gave up. Not every relationship can be as unremittingly persistent as Kitano's devotion to you. You two are in love, but he has unrequited love. I want to meet Liulai. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1024. Chapter 1024 Homicide and Disappearance Cases. We received an alarm call from the West Alley. Someone is missing. We immediately dispatched people to follow up. Yes. The information officer couldn't help but add another sentence: why are there always troubles in Zhejiang lately? No suspect has been found in the previous murder case, and now there is another missing case. Gongqin Li, who was looking up information, immediately became interested when he heard about the disappearance case. When I transfer people over there, I will automatically ask for help and say, Captain Li, I'm going to go. Cases involving human lives cannot be delayed. Knowing that Gongqin Li has always been active, he named her name this time. Although she is a female, both her grades in the police academy and her performance during the internship were outstanding. Everyone commented on her that she was enthusiastic and passionate about her work. The only shortcoming is that Gongqin Li's sense of justice is too strong. Every time she sees someone being bullied or catching the murderer, she is too impulsive and can't hold her breath. Fortunately, no major mistakes have been made so far, and the superiors at the police station also understand that she is young and energetic, and needs to hone her patience in practice. Concerning the disappearance case, they went to the home of the person who called the police to do some research. The people who called the police were a middle-aged couple named Sun, and the missing person was their 18-year-old son Sun Qinjin. Sun's father told them, my son went out yesterday to play with friends, but he didn't come home at night. We didn't have his friend's phone number, so we asked him from the school teachers and classmates who he played best with, but he didn't give it to him at night. After contacting my friends from school, they all said they had never seen my son. Son's mother pressed her forehead with one hand, obviously overly worried. People from the police station also found his good friends at school and learned about Sun Kyunjin one after another. 18-year-old Sun Kyunjin is a senior high school student and the only child in his family. He is very important to the Sun family and his wife. Sun Kyunjin is just like his name, he is very good in studies. As soon as he walked into his room, the walls were all decorated with his certificates. Gong Kin-li silently sighed in her heart that she was a top student. If it weren't for the fact that someone was missing now, she would have really wanted to take a photo of the room full of awards and post them on social media. Of course, finding talents is the key. Said that Sun Kyunjin has excellent grades and a good temper. He is a good student who is praised both at school and at home. But such a good student disappeared, and the only seedling in the family disappeared. Naturally, the Sun family and his wife were as anxious as ants on a hot pot. Now that they have found the police, Sun's father still has some sense and can answer their questions normally, but Sun's mother is emotionally broken. One moment, she holds their hands and begs them to find her son, and the next moment, she runs out, shouting, "I want to find my son back." Has Sun Qian been acting strangely at home or at school recently? No, my son works at 2 o'clock and one line every day. He goes to school in the morning and comes home after school. He rarely goes out, so when he tells us that he wants to go out to play, we just think that he is going to relax. In addition to his behavior, what about his mood? When the police asked these questions, the Sun parents shook their heads. My son goes home every day and studies in his room except during mealtime. He hardly communicates with us. Sun's parents said they didn't understand, but Sun Kyunjin's deskmate told them, he must be in a bad mood recently. Kixi is still struggling with Li Yuli's emotional line, Nangong Luo. Guchensi. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1025. Chapter 1025. You heard him. The missing person is in a bad mood. This is an important point. Gong Kin-li, who was taking notes, quickly asked, why? That classmate said, in last week's monthly exam, Sun Kyunjin fell down the rankings and was ranked 5th in the school. According to the school's statistics on Sun Kyunjin's academic performance in the 3 years of high school, he has never fallen out of the top 3 in the school, but this time, he slipped so many places at once. For someone who is not very active in learning, he is still a top student, but for a person who has been at the top for a long time, that is an unacceptable mistake. Based on what his classmates said, Sun's father also remembered, yes, when the results came out that day, he didn't want to tell us clearly. We called the teacher directly to ask, and later we even said a few words to him. I said a few words, probably accusing Sun Kyunjin of not studying hard. Sun's mother raised her head at this time. I heard what you said, and I remembered it. When we heard that our son's grades were declining, we were very worried about him, so we scolded him a few times. He said that we were too strict. I haven't been very talkative in the past few days. Yesterday he said he wanted to go out to play. We were afraid that he would be impatient, so we didn't ask any more questions. Okay, thank you for your cooperation. According to some information received from the Sun family, his wife, classmates, and teachers, they speculated that Sun Kyunjin may have been under pressure from study. Then I asked the neighbors, and some people said that they saw Sun Qian going back home at noon yesterday. Go out in the morning, return at noon, but go out again? They started searching nearby, and finally found Sun Qian under a bridge. Sun's parents cried excitedly when they saw Sun Kyunjin, but as soon as Sun Kyunjin saw them, he turned around and ran away. Gong Qinli immediately chased after him and caught Sun Qian before he was even 10 meters away. Sun Qinjin struggled in her hands. Who are you? Let me go. Who am I? Do the people's police know? Gong Qinli lowered her head to show him the badge on her chest. But before she could bring Sun Qinjin over, Sun's mother had already rushed over and pushed Gong Qinli away. Let go of my son, you're hurting him. I don't know how Sun Ma, a woman, can have such strong hands. The unprepared Gong Qinli was pushed hard by her and almost fell down. Fortunately, she reacted quickly and stabilized herself. Friends from the police station hurried over and asked, "Are you okay?" Gong Qinli shook her head, "It's okay. This man is really someone who burns bridges across rivers. She is also too nervous about her son." This guy said so much because he played well with Gong Qinli in the game. At this time, when Sun Qinjin was found, he realized that Sun Qinjin was not missing at all, but had run away from home and was hiding. After Sun's mother found out what happened, she burst out in tears at Sun Qian. "I told you to study hard and you didn't study. Then you went out and ran away from home. You're going to me off, aren't you? Is it wrong for me to ask you to study? It's not for the sake of your future, so why don't you listen? You have to wait until you regret it later to learn the lesson, right?" Sun's mother scolded Sun Qinjin again in anger. Under the persuasion of the police, Sun's mother escorted Sun Qinjin back home. After returning home, everyone talked with Sun's mother about the education methods. Sun's mother, who felt very sorry for her son, did not hesitate to apologize to Sun Qinjin. The mother and son had a good talk, and Sun Qinjin promised that he would never do anything stupid again. Gong Qinli was very happy that she had officially completed a case since becoming a full-time employee. But unexpectedly, something happened to the Sun family again the next day. And this time it was Sun's mother who died. I originally wanted to write about a murder case, but I thought the title was a bit scary, so I changed it to something ha ha ha. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1026. Chapter 1026. Li Yulai handles the case. The victim's body was found on the bank of the moat. According to the autopsy report, it is estimated that the time of death was around 6 p.m. There is a very long moat in City S. The area extending to Zhixiang is relatively remote, and almost no one goes there. It was the ant in charge of sweeping the street who found the body and called the police. The people from the police station quickly notified the Sun family. Gong Qinli did not expect that they would be dealing with the Sun family's cases for 2 days in a row. Sun Qinjin's disappearance was just a farce before, but now, a real human life has been lost. It would be okay if she didn't know this person before, but she just met him yesterday. Such a vivid life has now turned into a dead body. For Gong Qinli, who has just joined the police force, there is still a big sense of shock in her heart. The body was examined according to the procedures, and evidence was collected at the scene. Be careful and search the surrounding area carefully, no matter whether it is dead or alive. Don't let go. Yes. Gong Qinli encountered a murder case. Although she felt some indescribable feelings in her heart, she did not show it. She secretly vowed to find the murderer. Seek justice for the dead. According to the weather, it rained in Zhixiang at 6 p.m. Apart from the corpse, there were almost no other traces found at the scene. There was no dry rainwater or leaves blown down by the wind. Apart from the people cleaning the streets, there were almost no other people here. It was as if they had been lingering at the scene for half an hour without seeing any other living person passing by. Gong Qinli sighed. When she was in the police academy, she only knew how to train well and meet the passing standards in all subjects. But now that she came out to practice, she realized that what she really wanted to do was not to complete the academic assessment. Police is a very sacred profession. These two words both represent extraordinary meanings. How are you doing? Have you found anything here? No. Alas, now I realize that it is not as simple as I thought. Sometimes, even if you are full of fighting spirit, you will be defeated by the cruel reality. It's not that she gave up, but she really felt lost when she had no clue. However, this feeling of loss did not last long, and I quickly cheered up and continued searching. According to the request of the team leader, the environment around the crime scene, whether dead or alive, was carefully inspected one by one. Hey, Fang Yu, come here and take a look at this. Is this Katie? Gong Qinli put on her gloves and picked up a cabbage leaf from the pile of fallen leaves. Fang Yu, who was in the same group as her, took a look and nodded. It's Katie. Vegetable leaves are not a rare thing, but it is strange to find them here. As I said before, few people come near the moat here, and there is no place to buy or sell vegetables. Because of the wind and rain, leaves will fall off the trees, but it is impossible for cabbage leaves to fall off. Fang Yu boldly guessed, could this be something left by the victim or suspect? Gong Qinli, shall we go to the supermarket near Sun's house and ask, or call up the camera to take a look? No, a small family like them should go to the wet market to buy things. Things in supermarkets are always more expensive than those sold outside. Families like the Sun family who are relatively poor live their lives on a budget, and they are very concerned about even a few dollars and cents. They then asked the Sun family. Sun's father said, my wife basically goes to the vegetable market to buy vegetables every day when she comes home. Gong Qinli couldn't wait to go to the vegetable market to check it out. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1027. Chapter 1027. It's D'Argu. D'Argu is here. Gong Qinli looked up sensitively when she heard that title, and she saw Gu Jinsi. Gu Jinsi? Why is he here? Fang Yu was surprised by her question and quickly answered her, you didn't know? He is the cousin of our director. Sometimes he will come over when the bureau is handling cases. Gong Qinli was stunned for a moment. She really didn't know that Gu Jinsi had such a relationship with the director. But she was confused about one thing, isn't Gu Jinsi very busy? How come he has time to come to the bureau to help us handle the case? You do not know? I have no idea. Fang Yu shook his head at her and sighed, and asked her, you know the Gu family is a medical family, right? I know. Gong Qinli nodded. Fang Yu then explained, in this area of City S, let's take our bureau as an example. The people who come to examine the corpses are all people hired from the Gu family. I see. She realized that the Gu family was not only treating patients and saving people in the hospital. No wonder they were not only wealthy but also powerful in City S. Gong Qinli and Fang Yu's gossip didn't last long, and the captain just assigned them to go to the market to investigate. This vegetable market is not far from Sun's house. It covers a fairly large area. However, at this point in the evening, there are basically no people in the vegetable market. The only ones left are those with stalls in the market. Gong Qinli, who had never been to a vegetable market, was unaware of some of these things. They walked around here several times and found nothing different. This is strange. No one left the market at the time of the incident. No, my eldest lady, don't you know that there are more than just stalls in the vegetable market? Those who set up stalls on the ground are also very suspicious. Huh, where is the stall on the ground? This sentence was really difficult for Gong Qinli. Fang Yu explained to her for a long time that the wet market is not like a supermarket where each area is divided into different types of food and has dedicated people responsible for it. Instead, in addition to stalls, some people will also find places to set up stalls on the ground. Alas, Gong Qinli sighed after hearing this. Only now did she realize that people who sell vegetables are so knowledgeable. But even if they knew this, they couldn't arrest all the vegetable sellers. The Sun family has said that the time when the victim's accident happened was when she was selling vegetables on weekdays, but she went so far away she must have been lured there after buying vegetables. After searching for a long time, no strong evidence was found, and new news came from over there. According to the medical examination report, the victim this time is similar to the previous murder that occurred in Zhejiang. What is it? The way the victims died was that they were all knocked unconscious with drugs and had a long wound on their heart. Thinking of Sun Ma's body, when they walked away, they saw that Sun Ma's upper body was dripping with blood, and a long wound was cut from the heart, which was very ugly. Preliminary speculation is that the sharp weapon used to inflict harm was a knife, with a slightly wider opening, but a bit. What images flashed through Gong Qinli's mind? She suddenly remembered. It suddenly occurred to me that when we were walking around the vegetable market just now, I saw that the meat sellers were using knives like this. You know how they look when they cut meat. She frowned as she spoke. She couldn't describe it, but if the scene of a pork seller cutting meat was transformed into cutting human flesh, it would be horrifying to think about it. I'm going to see Dr. Gu to ask about the situation. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1028. Chapter 1028, Getting in Gu Jinxi's car. Dr. Gu. Gu Jinxi was also involved in this case. When he first saw Gong Qinli, he was surprised. Gu Jinxi never liked to talk much, so when Gong Qinli answered him, he just nodded lightly. I just wanted to ask, are there any new findings from the autopsy results? The autopsy report is next to me, but there is nothing else for now. Gu Jinxi pointed to the right front, still wearing gloves on his hands. Gong Qinli nodded, took the report, looked at it, and gave it to Fang Yu. The area in Zhejiang is filled with ordinary people, and the environment is not particularly good, so there are almost no cameras in those places. They can only wait until the market opens the next day and ask with photos of the victims. This is not a busy area at this point, people have basically gone home, and everyone is ready to go back to rest after get off work. When he was supposed to get off work, he was delayed for such a long time by a sudden murder case, and the captain was too embarrassed to keep him here any longer. When Fang Yu left, he said hello to Gong Qinli, it's time to get off work. Let's go. Gong Qinli was still packing her things. See you tomorrow, I'm leaving soon. After she finished packing, she happened to meet Gu Jinxi on her way out. Gong Qinli now relies on her own salary to support herself except for going home to eat and sleep. Therefore, she does not have a car or a driver. She relies on the subway or bus to get to and from work. When meeting Gu Jinxi, Gong Qinli didn't have the same enthusiasm as before. With just a nod, she walked to the other side. There was a bus stop more than 50 meters away. Gu Jinxi also got into his car. Gong Qinli stood at the stop sign waiting for the bus. She replied a few messages while looking down at her phone. She had previously told the sister group about seeing Gu Jinxi at the police station. Since she rejected Nangong Luo last time, Ye Wei and others seemed to have decided that she would launch an attack on Gu Jinxi, but even she did not expect that after that incident, she lost much interest in Gu Jinxi. Probably because when he saw Gu Jinxi, he would think of Nangong Luo's affectionate look at her at the wedding that day, and Gu Jinxi's indifference when he saw her. A beam of light flashed before her eyes, and she thought it was a bus coming. When she looked up, she saw a private car parked nearby. This car looks familiar. The car window opened and it was Gu Jinxi. Boarding. Gong Qinli didn't react when she heard the harsh words at first, and pointed her finger back at herself. Me. Gu Jinxi asked indifferently, is there anyone else here? Her eyes blinked rapidly, and her expression was a little uncontrollable. Did she hear correctly? Guchensi actually wanted to ask her to ride in the car? Is this the sun rising in the west? Still not in the car, don't waste time. Come on, right away. Without hesitation, he opened the car door and sat in the back seat. She then closed the car door with a bang, and Guchensi started the car. Halfway through the journey, the two of them said nothing. Gongkinli suddenly remembered that she had not reported her address after getting in the car. She probably didn't react because she saw that the road was going home. But she still asked again, "Do you know where my home is?" Guchensi, who is completely unwilling to talk nonsense, said, "Don't think that everyone is as slow to react as you are." If he didn't know, he would have asked. Gongkinli. She is looked down upon? It was really an unpleasant chat. Thinking about how she used to ride Nangong Luo's car, then. I heard someone said that Li Yulai and Guchensi should be together. Are you going to rebel? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1029. Chapter 1029 Nangong Luo, my brother-in-law. He scratched his hair irritably. Why do you think of Nangong Luo again? Dr. Gu, I'm here, thank you. Gongkinli thanked him in the car and waved to him after getting off the car, goodbye. She walked a few steps inside, and her little cousin suddenly ran back and welcomed her home very warmly. Sister is back. Gongkinli stared at him strangely. When she saw her little cousin's reaction, she realized something was wrong. What's wrong? Did you pick up money today? Tisk, where can I pick up the money? According to Gongkinli's cousin's understanding, this guy is definitely the kind of person who shines when he gets something cheap. Smiling so happily and being so enthusiastic towards her now, he must be in a very, very good mood. Oh, tell me, what good things happened to you? The little cousin happily told him, my brother-in-law came just now and brought me a lot of things. You know, when I was on a business trip, I made a gift list for my brother-in-law. I just played for fun. I didn't expect my brother-in-law to be so awesome. It's so awesome, I bought all of them. Listen clearly, I bought them all. I didn't expect a few limited editions. I didn't expect to receive them. I'm so happy. I can smile for a whole year. Now when my little cousin thinks of the big gift Nangong Luo gave him, he is so happy that he almost floats with joy. Sister, when are you going to be with my brother-in-law? I can't wait. The little cousin still wanted to have a sweet dream. If you are together, I will have more legitimate reasons to take advantage of my brother-in-law. The little cousin was not able to attend Ye Wei's wedding because he was in school. Although many people knew about the matter that concerned the two families, it was not spread to the outside world. It was even less likely that the elders in the family could mention it in front of the children. So the little cousin didn't know at all that Nangong Luo's confession in front of everyone was rejected. Gongkinli bent down and looked down at her little cousin's simple and happy smile because of getting the gift, and the words were stuck in her throat. She originally wanted to say, Nangong Luo is not your brother-in-law, so don't shout about it in the future. But now, she heard her little cousin call Nangong Luo my brother-in-law, and she thought that all these years, her little cousin had been determined that she would be with Nangong Luo. Even though he was corrected many times, my little cousin refused to change his name. Sister, what are you thinking about? My brother-in-law also left a gift for you. I will take you to see it. While Gongkinli was still deep in thought, her little cousin dragged her into the house. The little cousin said as he walked, the gift my brother-in-law gave you was a big box. I personally carried the stuff to your room. I seemed to open it and take a look, but it was your gift. Although my little cousin usually talks a little bit, he still follows some rules and doesn't mess around. Sister, have you also made a list of gifts for your brother-in-law? I think your brother-in-law is the kind of boss who can pick out all the stars and moons in the sky for you. My little cousin is now more and more satisfied with Nangang Luo, and he uses words fluently when he praises her, without any pause. It can be said that the little cousin has been subdued by Nangang Luo. Maybe one day he will run away and become Nangang Luo's younger brother. Sister, why don't you say anything? Didn't you care most about what gifts you would receive? Oh, I understand, you are just pretending to be serious now. Little brat, you think too much. It's not that I think too much. The two of them went in together, and the little cousin moved the box next to the door to the middle to prepare for disassembly. Kixie, I like this little cousin. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixie. Chapter 1030. Chapter 1030. There is heaven above and Suzhou and Hangzhou below. Cousin, I'm thirsty and want to drink water. You are so happy today. Please help me get a glass of water for my sister. Gong Qinli took the scissors from her little cousin's hand while talking. The little cousin is in a state of I am super invincible and very happy. He happily agrees to a small matter like pouring a glass of water without thinking about it. Wait, I will come as soon as I go. The little cousin understood her habits and took the special water cup she put on the table and ran out to help her get water. Seeing her little cousin leave, Gong Qinli quickly took out the scissors and opened the box. The first thing that comes to light is a letter. The lavender envelope has a delicate appearance, and you can smell the faint fragrance of the envelope as soon as you pick it up. When I opened it, there was only one sentence inside the envelope. There is heaven, there are Suzhou and Hangzhou. Sister, I brought you some water. When the footsteps of her little cousin were at the door, Gong Qinli reflexively hid the envelope behind her. She didn't know what she was feeling guilty about, but she realized after taking action that her behavior was a bit extreme. The little cousin handed the water glass to her hand, took it and took 2 sips of it. The little cousin looked down at the box, but did not flip through it casually. Sister, can I take a look? Can. With permission, my little cousin started to look through the gifts inside the box. The top layer was full of photos. My little cousin flipped through several photos in a row. Almost all of them were landscape photos that had been developed in color and had been processed through gelatin. They are all landscape photos. After looking at a few pictures, he commented, but they are quite beautiful. The little cousin is still a child at heart and only knows fun things. He couldn't appreciate these beautiful photos, so he gave them to Gong Qinli. After taking the photo away, I found a box underneath. Sister, there is another box. Hidden so deeply, these must be some good treasures. The little cousin took out the box in surprise. Lifting the lid under the expectant eyes of the two people, only found that the box contained bunches of dried flowers carefully wrapped. Why are they all like this? The little cousin couldn't believe that the gifts he had been curious about all night turned out to be these uninteresting and rare treasures. Brother-in-law must have given you the wrong gift, right? After nagging for a while, my cousin noticed that there was no smile on Gong Qinli's face. He immediately stood up and said, I'll call and ask my brother-in-law. As he spoke, he was about to take action. Gong Qinli quickly reached out and grabbed his phone. Don't call. The little cousin asked puzzledly, why? Gong Qinli explained, he didn't give the wrong gift. These are the list of gifts I gave him. No wonder you didn't show any curiosity just now. It turns out you knew it earlier. But sister, I really don't understand what you need these for. Is this a new way of love for modern couples? The little cousin touched his head and felt that the world of adults is really complicated. Gong Qinli pushed his small body and said, okay little guy, it's time for you to go to bed. I'm so happy that I can't sleep. You have to go to bed even if you can't sleep, otherwise I'll call your mother and tell you that you're just lazy when you come to my house. Sister, you are going too far. The little cousin is most afraid of his own mother, so when Gongkinli threatens him, he has to compromise. When her little cousin returned to her room obediently, Gongkinli immediately locked her door. She took out the dried flowers sent by Nangong Luo and placed them on the table, along with the photos. There is heaven above and Suzhou and Hangzhou below. This was originally their agreement. That time. I really want to travel to Suzhou and Hangzhou to feel the local customs. End of this chapter.